Yeah, I tell you what, it's that time of the year when kids get ready to go off to college and parents sit at home alone, really for the first time in 18 years. It can be a shock for a lot of parents, and they suffer from empty nest syndrome. Even those in Hollywood. You might have heard of actor Rob Lowe getting an overwhelming response this week for what he wrote in his memoir about his son going off to college. He says, quote, "I have been emotionally blindsided." He goes on to say, "Looking at his suitcases on his bed sends me out of the room to a hidden corner where I can't stop crying." And neurologist and national mindful living expert Dr. Romie joins us now. And I got to tell you, I have two boys as well, so I relate to that. They become such a big part of your lives. And we think about women having that emotional attachment, which they do as mothers, but there are a unique case where parents feel they've kind of left that empty nest there.
It is wonderful. So thank you for having me this morning on Good Day Orlando.
Yeah.
Always good to see you all. First of all, you know, empty nest syndrome is not an actual clinical diagnosis, but a term used in popular psychology to denote a period of grieving that's actually a loss when your child leaves home. And the reason this happens is one of the most important roles a person will play in their life is the role of a parent. Yet no one prepares the parent as much as we do the child to leave the nest. And then there's that grieving process that needs to take place.
And you're supposed to, you raise them to get them out of the house. You're supposed to be excited about it. But in this case, and in many cases, they're leaving. But let's talk about the difference between men and women. I mean, obviously, we deal with things very, very differently in a lot of ways. But in this case as well, how do we deal with this grieving nature, if you will?
I really appreciate that Rob Lowe used his platform as a celebrity to show that as a man, it is okay to express emotions. Traditionally,
and he's kind of a hunk, too, which doesn't hurt that whole philosophy as well.
I'm not going to disagree. I was telling you that off air. I'm a big fan, so hello, Rob Lowe, you know?
I figured I'd lead you into that.
Thank you so much. But really, what's important here is women often have a platform to talk about emptiness with their friends or family members. Men tend to express emotions a lot less and bottle it up. And what's actually interesting is that grieving that looks like questioning your life purpose and are you happy in life often gets misdiagnosed as a midlife crisis in men, when actually it is emotions that are not dealt with due to empty nest syndrome.
Here we sit, tomorrow's July 1, so we're only 4 or 5 weeks for some of these parents from really having that empty nest. Is there something they can do that will help that process?
It is. It's a great question. You know, first and foremost, we always recommend to start prepping as early as possible, so ideally a few years ahead of time. 2, recognize that empty nest syndrome can happen even if one out of several children are leaving the home. The third thing is, think of the other roles that you play in your life. For instance, friend, volunteer activities, roles you may play in church. See which one of those gives you the most joy and plan to spend a lot more time doing that when your child leaves the home. It's a great way to start filling your life with joy and dealing with the grief.
Dr. Romie, always great to have you on the program. Some great tips as well. I mean, this is not easy for parents. So
not at all.
Great to see that as well.